This is Colourful Radio.
Our music,
our
news,
news,
our
our
views.
views.
Okay, so those last two tracks were Close to You by Maxi Priest and Complicated Emotions by Keisha White. Both really, really good songs. So as you know, we're talking about self-awareness, and the focus of today is anxiety. And I'm now joined on the line by Jana Stefanovska, who is the director of Now Festival and Now Live Events. And she's working on Anxiety 2014, which is that campaign I was telling you about a little bit earlier in the show. So hi, Jana, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well. Sorry to have to start with a correction, but my name's actually Jana. This is just something that I have to say to most people. So it's Jana Stefanovska.
Apologies, it's the J that threw me. Sorry.
Not at all. Absolutely fine. How are you doing?
25 degrees outside. It's sunny. I have nothing to complain about.
And I hear I'm your first call-in on the radio station.
Yes, you are, and I'm very, very chuffed.
Good. Well, congratulations. It's a great show, and looking forward to speaking to you today.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's find out more about the Anxiety 2014 Festival. It's running throughout the whole of June to raise awareness and to explore anxiety. Why is this event and campaign important?
So one of the things about anxiety, which I think is really interesting, is that it's a phenomenon that we all experience. So the point at which anxiety becomes an issue for people is where we all have anxiety in our lives. We all have moments that, cause us to feel more nerves. For example, right now, being on the phone, I'm going to be more nervous in some ways than I would be, when I woke up this morning and got out of bed. But it's that point at which it becomes an issue where it's too present in people's lives, where they're finding that it's getting in the way of their day-to-day relationships and the way that they approach their life, that they can't really enjoy life in the same way. And one of the reasons why I think right now anxiety is such an issue that is important for people to think about is because the statistics are absolutely staggering. I mean, one of the reasons why I find being in the moment and finding a way of kind of tackling anxiety so important is because according to a recent statistic by the Royal College of Psychiatrists, in the last 20 years, workplace stress and anxiety has gone up by 86% in 80% of workplaces in the UK. And for that to happen in 20 years is just, you can't really get your head around that. It feels like anxiety and stress is something which is becoming such an issue that it's just spiraling out of control. And people are, going out of work with workplace stress more than ever. So something needs to be done. There needs to be more awareness brought to this issue.
And within the festival, you're sort of expressing anxiety in different mediums. So you have film, you have visual arts, talks within the communities, and stage performances. What is the benefit of having this discussion through different mediums?
So I think one of the things about Anxiety Festival, I'm just to make clear my position in the festival, I'm not actually one of the organisers of Anxiety Festival, but Now Live Events, which I run, is featuring within a much, much bigger programme of events happening. As you say, it's been happening over the whole of June, and we're now going into the last week. One of the reasons why I think different approaches are so important is because people access these ideas in their own way. And, for example, through film and through community work or through different arts activities, people find a different way of engaging through their own ways. I think that anxiety is something which is such an interesting thing to explore from the point of view of creativity and through the arts, because it's a different way in. And, for some people, perhaps going to a mindfulness class or going to see a therapist is a very direct way of thinking about these issues and of kind of tackling these things in their own lives. But what the arts can give in this context is a totally different approach, which perhaps is a little bit more, in my view, you can find more playful and engaging ways of thinking about these issues in a way that may not be as serious. So for somebody going to a therapist, for example, it might be a very difficult experience for them because they're having to tackle things head on which they may not be ready for in a particular way. Whereas, focusing on anxiety through creativity and through creative expression and thinking about the creative responses to anxiety might be, for some people, a more sort of, as I say, I keep saying engaging because I think it's a really important word here, but I think it's a more kind of a different approach which maybe gives people more through it.
Yeah, I totally understand that, actually. Very good point. So anxiety is a human condition, as you mentioned before. We all feel stressed or anxious when faced in a new or challenging situation. However, is there a point where we need to acknowledge we could be taking better care of ourselves? So you mentioned that more and more people are taking time off from work due to stress. One of the reasons, I mean, there's probably numerous, but one of the reasons is that work demands are rising also. But as individuals, what can we do so we don't actually have to maybe take time off work? Because when it gets to that stage, it's almost too late, isn't it?
I think that's a really, really good point. And I think for a lot of people, actually, what does happen is that they do get to the stage where it's gone too far and suddenly alarm bells go off and they can't get out of bed in the morning. Or, for example, I know of situations where people have been so stressed at work that they've fainted in the workplace. So I think for so many people, the focus is to just get on and to survive and to do the best that they can with the pressures around them at work. But as you say, it's too late. So one of the things that I think something like Anxiety Festival is trying to do, and my company with Now Live Events, is really to get people to tune into where they are right now and think about these issues before it gets too late. So it's almost like planting a seed and saying, okay, have a think about where you are on a scale of 1 to 10 and what you're experiencing on a day-to-day level, because for so many of us, our experience is very subjective. So we don't have an idea of how somebody else is tackling stress. And one of the things about stress and anxiety is that it puts you into this place where everything revolves around that stress. So you may not even realize that you're stressed in the first place. You're just going round and round in this bubble of anxiety, and you may have absolutely no awareness of the fact that you are absolutely tiring yourself out and you're on the edge of some kind of exhaustion. So this is one of the things that we're trying to bring in with the idea of Now, for example, with what I'm doing, is to say, check in, think about your anxiety levels and your stress levels, and not necessarily in a clinical way, but to say we're all here to share this experience and to think about where we are and think about how we can improve things for ourselves in the future.
I think it's quite difficult to ask people who are not self-aware to become aware, because especially when it comes to stress, normally, because we do have busy lifestyles, we're on autopilot and we just keep going and keep going. So what are the signs for someone who perhaps isn't self-aware and is just going?
I think everybody is, at different stages. Some people are more self-aware in a particular way and some people aren't. But I think that everybody has that potential at any time to suddenly look at themselves and say, hang on, where am I right now? What's going on for me? And one of the things that I remember last year when we were featuring at Wilderness Festival with the Now tent, one of the things that a participant said to us after the workshop was that for the first time in their life, they stepped back and had a look at what was going on in their mind, and they said it was like having a swarm of bumblebees going around and around, and they had never even seen what was happening. And they said, from now on, I can see what's actually going on in my head and I can see why I'm feeling so stressed and anxious, whereas before they were so in it that there was no ability to step back and have perspective. I think those shifts can happen in 30 seconds. Somebody can suddenly have a realization, and from that point their life can change. And I'm not saying we're going to transform everybody's lives in a 30-minute workshop, but I am saying that I don't think there's such thing as a group of people who are self-aware and a group of people who aren't self-aware. I think that the potential for that is always there.
Fully agree. I guess it's whether people have been invited to become self-aware. It's almost like if you've never been asked how you're feeling or thinking, then you've never really given yourself the opportunity to actually try and respond by thinking about where you're at.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think what an easy thing it is actually to invite people to do that if they're willing. because all it takes is one question, and all it takes is a willingness to just flick a switch in a particular way. You just have to reframe whatever it is that you're doing. So with the Now activities that we're offering, our idea is, okay, how can you be more in the moment? How can you savor the moment through the arts? So what activity can you do that's going to make you step more into the moment and think about, where am I now? And how can I go forward in a way that's going to be more positive and make me feel more empowered? Because this is really, for me, what being in the moment is about. It's about empowerment. And if you can actually be self-aware now, then going forward and in the future, you can make your life fit what you want it to be more. If you're in this place of haze and anxiety and stress, that's what you're going to find in the future.
And so your company is called Now, and that's your ethos? That's the sort of the core foundation of your company, it sounds like. It's just being in the now? So what a simple name for a company. That speaks so much of what it is that you're trying to do.
Does it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very easy thing to get your head around in a lot of ways. I think what we're trying to do is not actually rocket science. And I think a lot of people see mindfulness, for example, the idea of cultivating more awareness in your life. They see it as being left field, a bit woo-woo, and they think, oh, that's just for people with finger cymbals and, sitting cross-legged and drinking herbal tea. But actually, it's the most practical thing in the world. What it is focus and concentration and attention. And you say to a child in school, pay attention. What are you actually asking them to do? Because that doesn't really mean very much. Pay attention. What is that? So we're trying to say to people, your attention is everything. Where you put your attention is the whole story of how your life unfolds. And if you put your attention on one thing over another, for example, focusing on how am I feeling now, as we said before, and am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling anxious? I'm not saying it's going to turn your whole life around. It's not going to solve all of your problems, but the more awareness that comes into your life, the more ability you have to relax and enjoy and be interested in the things that are happening around you. And we invite people to do that in many different ways and through many different art forms, whether it's, engaging in a singing workshop, whether it's a writing workshop, a poetry workshop, whether it's acting, improvisation. We're saying to people, these art forms are probably being given to you in terms of the way that these workshops are being given, in a way that you understand, in a way that you've engaged with before. We've all sung before, we've all danced before, we've all tried different art forms, but with that different reframing on focusing, I think that's what can make the difference for people, because it's doing what you normally do, and you can apply this to anything you do in your life, whether it's washing up or walking or going for a run. But if you just turn on that switch of awareness, it suddenly changes things. For me, I find that can be the difference.
Each Sunday on the show, I do something called Appreciation Sunday, and it's just that time to get people to think about where they're currently at, what they appreciate and what they're grateful for. And because I'm speaking to you, I'm going to ask you the same thing. So, Jana, what do you appreciate today, being in the now moment?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I'm sitting here in Deptford Lounge at the moment, which is where we have our week's residency starting on Monday. And the sun is shining, as you said this morning. I'm happy that we've got all our kit here. Nothing's broken yet, which is great. We're setting up, and we're looking forward to inviting everybody to come. But in terms of being grateful and appreciation, I think that fits so much with our ethos, because awareness is basically just appreciating what's happening right now. It's just being aware and being more kind of engaged with what is occurring. And so I'm grateful just for kind of having got this far in terms of we've got the program together, everybody's going to start arriving tomorrow, and it's a good place to be. I'm feeling very happy.
It sounds brilliant. So for more information regarding that event that's happening on Monday, can you just explain a little bit about what it is, what's going on?
Of course. We have 6 different days with 6 different focuses starting from Monday. So tomorrow is actually our visual arts day. And we have a sculptor coming, we have an animator, an award-winning animator, we have a specialist in synesthesia, which is kind of sensing, and also Mark Williamson, the Director of Action for Happiness, doing a talk tomorrow. So we have lots of different experts and artists. We've got 35 different participants who are going to be engaging with the general public. And yeah, lots of different focuses, from music, visual arts to spoken word and performance.
That
and
sounds
it's all kicking off tomorrow.
That sounds amazing. So is the main site to go to, would it be the Deptford Albany, or would it be your actual website?
It could be either. Our website is now liveevents.org, and you can find all of the different information on there. But there's also the Deptford Lounge site as well, and the Albany site, and it's all of the information is in every different place that you can find it. It's everywhere.
Google. So, Google will take you somewhere.
Google and come and find us, and it would be great to get people along.
Oh, that is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. It sounds very exciting, very thought-provoking as well. And I hope the remainder of that week goes really well for you.
Thanks so much. Great to speak with you. Have a good day.
You too. Take